Long before the crysknife was drawn, before the name Muad'Dib echoed across the stars, the people who would become the Fremen were not born of Arrakis. They were not native to sand or spice. They were wanderers, outcasts from shattered empires and broken religions, the spiritual orphans of a galaxy ruled by power and paranoia. They were called Zen-Sunni, a fusion of two ancient earthborn faiths, the contemplative depth of Zen and the revelatory fire of Sunni Islam. Their doctrine was paradox, obedience through insight, freedom through surrender, action born of stillness. But the galaxy had no place for those who lived by paradox. The Zen-Sunni were hunted, enslaved, scattered like spores on solar winds. Their long migration carved sorrow into their DNA. From Poratrin, where they first toiled under the yoke of technocrats, to Salusa Secundus, the Emperor's hell planet where cruelty became code, they endured generations of forced labor, cultural erasure, and exile. On Belatagus and Rosak, they clung to oral memory and spiritual integrity, preserving their identity not in monuments, but in mantras. Each world left a mark. Each betrayal deepened the silence between their chants, and still, they moved. At last, they arrived at Arrakis, a world so hostile it had no native name beyond that which other empires gave it: desert, dune, to most, a barren rock. To the Zen-Sunni it was revelation, for in its vast, lifeless plains they saw not death, but purity. No cities to enslave them, no watchers in the sky, just sand and wind and time unshackled. And so the final transformation began. They vanished into the desert, abandoning their former names, their last remnants of old-world clothing, their fear of the void. They became freemen. But this freedom was no gift. It was earned in blood and thirst. They carved sciaches into rock, learned to reclaim their own breath as water. They communed with Shai-Hulud, the sandworm, whose movements were both omen and ecological engine. They wore their dead in still suits. They prayed in silence. They were not merely survivors. They were architects of adaptation. Their children were trained in moisture discipline before they could speak. Their weapons, their customs, their every motion became tools of survival. Yet beneath the practical flowed the sacred. The old Zen-Sunni beliefs were reborn, refracted through spice and sand. Their prophecy evolved. Their spirituality crystallized into something fierce and formless, as endless as the desert wind. The off-worlders called them primitive. They saw only nomads. But beneath the still suits and blue within blue eyes were minds sharpened by generations of persecution and adaptation. They remembered. They remembered chains. They remembered fire. And they remembered that prophecy does not need parchment. It lives in blood and bone and rhythm. When Paul Atreides came, he did not make the Fremen. He was made by them. Their dream had waited for him, or shaped him, or perhaps consumed him. For the Fremen were not a lost tribe. They were a crucible, shaping a new kind of human. One who could live without mercy yet not lose memory. One who could ride a worm and read the sky like scripture. They had wandered longer than memory, suffered longer than most species survive, but in the end, they found more than a home. They found destiny written in the dunes. They were no longer Zen-Sunni. They were Dune itself. And when they rose, the galaxy learned what the desert already knew: that nothing soft survives long under a burning sun, and nothing forged by fire can be easily broken.